You absolutely 100% have the right to burn the American flag. That doesn't mean you should. Hi, I'm Nick. This is 10 Minutes with Nick, and I don't know if you've been watching the news. President Trump did a thing. It's not a great thing. I don't like the thing. But he wrote an executive order ordering that anyone who burns the American flag essentially be put in jail for 1 year, do not pass go, do not collect $200. This is clearly a direct violation of the First Amendment of the Constitution. We all know that. You know that. I know that. The Democrats know that. The Republicans know that. It is, I'm going to assume, largely a symbolic move in order to make a point about flag burning. That's a very, very generous interpretation of it. It is. Like, it's a generous interpretation. I have no other way to put it. Non-generously, I would say that it is a flagrant flouting, which is a little bit of alliteration for you, of the First Amendment of the Constitution. Here's the thing. It always comes down to this. Just because you don't like something doesn't mean it should be banned. I don't like smoking marijuana. I think it's a dumb thing to do. I think it has no... like people claim medical benefits. I don't think those benefits outweigh the absolute zonking effect it has on you. I also think that marijuana has changed over the years, and I don't think that the marijuana of today is the same marijuana as yesteryear. But you know something? My cousin sells marijuana, and he's built a beautiful life with it. Like, he supports himself and his family. So, and legally, I should note, legally. He's not some sort of drug maven. So who am I to judge? Like, do what you want to do. I don't burn the American flag because I happen to like the American flag. I happen to like what it stands for. I happen to like the history of the symbol. All of it. The messy history, the bad history, the good history. Like, all of it comes together to make the America that we know and love today. I don't think you should burn the American flag. I think burning the American flag is one of the most disgusting acts you can do, frankly. But that doesn't make it a crime. It is 100%, and this has been judged by the courts many times, it is 100% protected free speech under the First Amendment, which makes this executive order 100% unconstitutional. It's not something that the president had any authority to do, and yet he still did it. This will get very quickly struck down by the courts if the courts have any kind of respect for judicial precedent. But just because you have the right to do something doesn't mean you should do it. I have the right to say whatever I'd like. But I'm not free of the consequence of saying whatever I'd like. For example, if I walk up to an African American person and I say the N-word, don't be surprised when I get the crap kicked out of me, and with good reason. Why did I walk up to the black person and say that? I have the right to do that, but I also have to live with the consequence of what I did. Now, obviously, there'd be, you go down that rabbit hole and all of a sudden you're navigating, well, did I start the fight? Was it hate speech? I have problems with hate speech laws too, but we're not going there today. We're focusing on, you have the right to say something. That doesn't mean you should. You have the right to burn the American flag. I don't think you should. As a form of protest, I think it spits in the face of pretty much every American soldier, Marine, sailor who has ever served. Now, they did serve to protect that right. They served to protect the right enshrined by the Constitution that does allow you to do that. But again, you have the right to do it. That doesn't mean you should do it. Now, the reasoning behind the executive order is that when you burn the American flag, according to the executive order, it is an incitement to riot. And now you are not allowed to do speech that essentially is an incitement to riot. For example, the most famous example is that you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. So the executive order equates burning the American flag to yelling fire in a crowded theater, as though it is some sort of whistle that the second you burn the American flag, we're rioting. No. Typically speaking, during a protest, the American flag is being burned, but it's not the incitement of a riot. We've seen more riots during protests recently, and there's a tit-for-tat argument going on between those who are protesting and those who are trying to contain the protest, right? Well, this riot only started because you brought militarized police to a peaceful protest. Well, we only brought the militarized police because you were in the middle of a riot. Everybody's pointing fingers every which way. And there's a deeper argument when it comes to riots breaking out at peaceful protests about the militarization of the police. But that's a different argument. What we're focusing on here is having the right to do something, and it's still being a stupid idea to do that thing. For example, just another example of just being a dick. I have the right to walk up to, I don't know, I'm a Bills fan. I have the right to walk up to a Patriots fan and go, Tom Brady sucks, and fill in sucks with something absolutely horrific about Tom Brady, his genealogy, and the genealogy of the individual to whom I am directing the insult that was originally directed at Tom Brady. I had the right to do it. That doesn't mean it's a good idea. Look, when it comes down to it, the First Amendment protects an incredibly wide array of speech. Now, it protects you from government interference with your free speech. It doesn't protect you from private company interference with your free speech. If you're inside of a department store and you start burning an American flag inside the department store, beyond being a violation of fire codes, that department store kicks you out for burning the American flag, well, they're not infringing on your First Amendment right. They're not. A private corporation cannot infringe on your First Amendment right because they're not the government. If the government were to step in and say all department stores must remove people from their premises who are burning an American flag, that would be a violation of the First Amendment. But just because a department store kicks you out, that's not a violation of any sort of right you have. Now, someone might say there's a violation of equal protection in there somewhere, depending on who is doing the burning of the American flag. Listen, my advice, don't get a law degree. It makes things that are black and white get very gray. Sorry, I'm just checking how much time I've recorded. Oh, good. We still got time. Some things are really good ideas to say, even though the consequences may be dire. For example, if all of a sudden a law was passed and slavery was brought back, it would be very good to speak out against that in rather forceful terms. And you could probably justify any amount of forcefulness at that point to make the point that this was, why are we bringing this back? We all knew this was a bad idea 200 years ago, whatever. Oh God, when were the 1860s? I'm not going to do the math on that, but it was a while ago. You don't have a legal obligation when you are engaging in political protest to find specifically nice or decent or kind ways to go about your protest. It is very rarely the case that when one engages in protest, one gets very far by saying, excuse me, I don't like what you're doing. Some people feel that burning the American flag is the step necessary to get their point across. To me, that is never the way to get the point across. That, for me, is a bridge too far. But if you came to me and said, I'm going to a protest and I'm going to burn the American flag in protest of what the government is doing at the southern border, I will say I disagree with you 100%. You should not burn the American flag. I'm going to beg you not to burn the American flag. But I will defend to the death your right to burn the American flag. I will probably judge you harshly for it. I will certainly probably not associate with you and your company much anymore. Actually, no, I'll probably just get over it in a week or so because, quite honestly, politics is not something that drives me away from people. I will defend to the death your right to burn the American flag, but I will continue to beg you not to burn the American flag. You have the absolute right to burn the American flag in political protest of the United States government. That doesn't mean it's a good idea, and I hope you don't do it. But if you are going to do it, a couple words of advice. Number one, do it outside. Do it outside in a wide open area. Preferably, do it with a bucket of water nearby, especially in California. It's fire season. It's very dry outside. Burn it quick. Don't linger about the burning. And put out the embers of the flag very quickly. Also, don't follow up by stomping on it. That's just disrespect, more disrespect on top of the disrespect you're already using. And quite honestly, you've made your point. Just move on about it. And just know that if you burn the American flag, I will protect your right to burn that flag, but I will not join you in your protest. I may join you in other protests. That's not the one I'm joining you in. Anyways, maybe that made sense to you. Not entirely sure it made sense to me. If it made sense, like and subscribe. If it didn't make sense, like and subscribe and come to see if I make sense to next time. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I can't guarantee anything. But until then, I'm Nick. This is 10 Minutes with Nick. Have a great day.